It's the top of the hour. Putting the U in HBCU. We are HSRN. You are listening to Green Talk for Brown Folks with Ryan Marshall on HSRN.
Welcome back to another episode of Green Talk for Brown Folks, GTBF. I'm your host, Ryan Marshall. I'm feeling very festive. It's the holiday season. We are officially in that time of the year. Thanksgiving's behind. Hopefully you had plenty of Thanksgiving turkey or stuffing or mac and cheese or greens or however you do it, whatever you do with whomever you were with. And I certainly hope that everybody was safe. I know with this whole pandemic and getting back with everybody for the first time, that wasn't very easy to be able to do that. But I'm so grateful to have been around family, and I know that many of us, for the first time in a long time, are getting back with our families. So that's a great thing. And so we're here talking about holiday spending part 2, and Black Friday and Cyber Monday are behind us. Also, we're in the busiest shopping season of the year. People just buy. They buy because it's Christmas time or it's Kwanzaa. You buy for whatever it is that you want to buy. And that's one of the things that we wanted to be able to talk about because I sent a tweet out, I'd say maybe a few days ago or a number of days ago. And I'm at Ryan H. Marshall. If you don't follow me on social media, go follow me there. Go follow me on Instagram. Go follow me on LinkedIn. You'll find me there as well. I said everything that's being sold ain't for sale. Now remember that everything that's being sold ain't for sale. We understand that Cyber Monday and Black Friday are going to have the deepest discounts of the year. But just because it says sale doesn't mean you have to buy it. Okay? It doesn't mean that you have to buy it from that particular vendor or from that particular store, that online outlet. Do your research. One of the places that I tend to go to, I see something I like that fits what I'm trying to do, and I'm buying a whole bunch of airplanes for my son. He loves airplanes. We go to the airport here in the Detroit area. We go sit and we watch the airplanes. We'll eat some Chick-fil-A or whatever it is that we're eating, and we'll watch airplanes. And I wanted him to have some of the toy airplanes that he likes to have. And so there was a place that I looked at and I was like, oh, hey, this is this cool Delta airplane, this Delta 25-piece set that I was looking at today. And so I saw it for one price on a particular site. And I was about to hit send, and then I was like, let me check it out. So what I did was I copied the actual description online and I pasted it in Google and just did a search, and I saw all of the places, and Google's very good about doing things like this where, they'll take you to Google Shopping. You'll see all of the places that sell that particular item or similar items. And I found that same item in another spot, $11 cheaper than what I was getting ready to hit and send and buy. And so that's very, very important. You're going to have to be more savvy when it comes to looking for these deals, because Cyber Monday, Black Friday, obviously a lot of people are giving 30, 40, 50% off. They're giving you gift cards. They might be giving you cash back. Whatever it is that they were giving you, now a lot of that has ended. And so now people are just swiping the card, pulling out the wallet and breaking off that cash because, hey, now I got to get a gift and it's the holiday season. But do your due diligence, and that is a great place. Make sure to start early. And I think we started talking about that in the last show, starting early. You can use certainly Google to be able to check the description, across different places. I think that's going to be one key strategy for you to be able to do. We've got about 30 different airplanes from different airline makers. And it's so interesting because you see United and American and Delta and Southwest, and then you get these international carriers, and you're talking about Turkish Airlines and Air Canada, and he loves, Lufthansa. I don't know how he's saying Lufthansa. I've said it enough times. He struggled with it early, but, you know, as getting ready to cross over to 4, Daddy, that's Lufthansa. We'll watch a video. And so I said I had to find that Lufthansa airplane. $12.95 here and $11 here. I'm going to buy the one at $11 as long as it's at a place that I feel like is reputable. And it was. So those are some of the things that you can definitely do in that particular situation. Now, here's the continuation of this conversation. We didn't talk really anything about holiday travel very much in part 1. What I really want to kind of talk about a little bit here is I really want to start diving into traveling for the holiday season, because we are in the midst of peak travel times. There were some really good Cyber Monday deals and Black Friday deals with the airline companies or with hotels or respect to rental cars. But this time of the year is considered peak travel season. And so I think one of the things that you're going to want to do is people are going to want to travel, and travel is very, very expensive this time of the year. One of the things that you want to do is be able to utilize when you're talking about traveling and cutting your costs. And I think it's going to be so very important, because if you're traveling with a whole family like we did, or like we are getting ready to do, we were looking at, I was staring at $1,500 for airfare round trip for everybody. And it was like, holy moly, that is a lot of freaking money. And so one of the ways that you're going to be able to cut those costs, I think also to using comparison tools, using other third-party sites. You use Google Flights, which is really good at comparing, and you can kind of look and see the trends of flights and flight prices, whether they're up or down. You could look at different sites, and I know this is kind of basic surface kind of stuff here, but for somebody this could be very important. Some of these other sites, Orbitz, Expedia, Travelocity, those places like that. Remember, on a flight, you know, you have 24 hours to be able to cancel a flight. It's federally mandated. So when you buy a flight ticket, what happens is you buy that ticket and then you say, oh, you see something and it's like, oh man, this is cheaper over here. You have 24 hours for them to give you a full refund. Now, it gets a little dicey and tricky after that based on the carrier that you're flying. And I know a lot of us may fly Southwest. Okay, and they do one thing. Some of us may fly American, and they do a completely different thing. Delta does something different. But for the biggest thing is you definitely want to do your research, check the trends, check those sites to see if there's airfare that could be lower than where you're at. I think one of the ways that you're able to cut down on costs are using points and miles, and that is so very important. The currency that your particular program that you like to use, whether that's a Marriott, whether that is an IHG if you're staying at the Intercontinental Hotel Group, or for airlines if you're Southwest Rapid Rewards, or if we're talking about Delta Sky Miles, whatever Sky Miles or whatever miles that you have, being able to leverage those points. And then other types of rewards as well. That's going to be a key way for you to cut costs out of pocket. Still look for great deals. And I think that's going to be so very important, is you're going to still be able to want to look for those deals, but utilizing. So let's say, for example, let's just give you a basic example. So let's say you yourself are looking at a flight you lived, let's say, transatlantic or continental flight. So you're looking at LA to New York, and this round trip flight is $400 cash. One of the ways that you can reduce the amount of money out of cash is using the currency of the particular flight. So let's say you had 15,000 whatever miles. A lot of carriers will allow you to use cash plus miles, or you could purchase the ticket just straight miles. Also be able to, if you have, and I don't recommend using credit cards for spend. Okay, using cash is going to be the biggest way and the best way to be able to spend for holiday season. But if you have a credit card, if you have a travel rewards card, or anything like that, those are going to be very helpful. Look to see what type of perks you may have on those cards. A lot of these premium travel cards, some of these travel cards may have cash back attached to them. Some of them may have other perks attached to them. I have an American Express Delta SkyMiles Platinum card. And one of the perks that they have an annual fee that you pay each and every year, and that gets you a certain set of perks. It gets you maybe access to the Delta Sky Lounge for me, or the access to the American Express Centurion lounges. You get a companion certificate. So the companion certificate for me, and what I did was utilize that. We were looking at 4 round trip tickets, $1,500. I said, hell no, that's not happening. So what I did was I remembered I had a companion certificate. It was the cost of a round trip ticket for me, the taxes for the companion. And that's the benefit of being able to do that, is you have the cost of the taxes, the ticket plus the taxes. And so it's basically buying 2 for 1. So coming up in segment 2 of GTBF, we're going to talk a little bit more about holiday spending part 2. In our second segment, we're going to get into a little bit more about some of the ways that you can reduce the cost of your holiday traveling. That's going to be so very important. See, we don't always have to beat you upside the head with some financial product and a tax consequence of that and all of these things. Talking about green talk for brown folks, green talk is more than just investing and more than just doing all these other things. You want to save. You want to be able to utilize what you have to be able to live on less and get more out of life too. And that's important. So we're getting ready for that second segment of GTBF, Green Talk for Brown Folks. You don't want to miss it. We'll be right back.
You are listening to Green Talk for Brown Folks with Ryan Marshall on HSRN.
Welcome back, everybody, to Green Talk for Brown Folks, GTBF. I'm your host, Ryan Marshall. We're getting into holiday spending part 2, and I know that this is, I love to. So let me step back for a second. I remember a few episodes ago, I mentioned that my wife calls me cheap. I would call me cheap, but in actuality, I love to spend money. I love to do things. I love to do the things that I really want to do. I think we all do. I think the way that I go about doing it, though, can sometimes be a little infuriating to certain people in my family, more namely, I guess, my wife. Maybe a little unorthodox, but we try to save money the best way that we could definitely do that. And so one of the ways that you can definitely do that is with holiday spending and with holiday travel. And so we talked about being able to do all of the things that you're doing to be able to save money and travel for the entire family. So here are a couple ways that I think that you can be able to set aside and save money on holiday travel costs. If you have the opportunity to be able to drive someplace as opposed to flying, I think that's going to be a good way potentially for you to save. Taking the family down the road obviously is going to be great. But if you don't have that opportunity to be able to do that or the availability to be able to do that, then you want to look at ways to compare costs and don't just take the first thing that you see as far as flights. Be flexible with the type of flights that you want to take. Be flexible with the times. It's going to be very helpful. Don't necessarily be locked into a particular day if you have a little bit of time. That's going to be able to give you some other options at maybe finding some lower fares or different things like that. Typically, the lowest fares for flights are going to be in the middle of the week, so a Tuesday or Wednesday, just traditionally across the board. Now, that's not always the case, but overall, traditionally, that's going to be just the general trend and the general trajectory. The highest days generally are Sundays, Fridays, days where people are heavy travel days. But you can find some savings. So if you can say, you know what, we don't have to leave on a Sunday. Maybe we could leave on Monday, or maybe we can leave this day or that day. That could certainly help you in a lot of different ways. Make a checklist of all of the things that you're doing. And before I get to that, I will come back, have a little bit deeper discussion on cutting costs with airline travel. And we talked about using points and miles to be able to purchase tickets as well, using some of the perks that you may have if you have a membership someplace or a travel rewards credit card. I don't recommend using credit cards for spending because a lot of times you can swipe and forget how much you're swiping and then overspend. And we talked about that in episode 1. But so we'll come back to that. So create a checklist of all of the things that you're going to need. That way it'll help you be able to budget the things that you need to budget for your travel. In being able to budget, you want to be able to create those different things. Okay, I'm going to need this. I'm going to need that. I'm going to need whatever it is that you're going to need. Whether it's if you're driving, I'm going to need food. How much I'm going to need for gas. Suitcases, everything that you have to pack or that you have to buy or reserve. You want to make sure that you do that so that way that'll help you figure out ways to be able to stay on budget. That is the key to being able to do this. If you don't have a checklist, that budget could just get way, way out of hand. And you want to budget for everything that you're doing. That's going to be so very important. One of the things that if you're driving, cutting down on costs for driving is a couple of episodes. I would say one of our first episodes, we heard from travel bloggers Jen and Mark. And Jen and Mark use something called Gas Buddy. And I want to bring that back up. Gas Buddy is an app that you can be able to use to find the lowest gas prices of wherever you're at in your area. And that is really cool to be able to use that. It doesn't cost you anything. I believe it's just an app. Go download Gas Buddy. You can do things like that. And that's going to be so very, very important. That can help lighten the load. Finding the cheapest cost. Hey, I've got a quarter tank and I'm looking for some gas. And look, we've all been out there in EBF in the middle of nowhere. And if you don't know what EBF is, just know it's an acronym. East, and then you figure out the rest. But we've all been out there in EBF, and the next stop is in 26 miles. And you're like, ooh. But if you have an option, if you come to a place where, okay, there's gas at $3.19 a gallon. If I go a mile up, there's gas at $3.14 a gallon. Maybe you make the extra mile and save 5 cents per gallon on that. That's going to be very important. I think it is a good way to be able to do. If you're traveling, Jen and Mark also talked about this. Travel blogs. I'm going to have them back on, and we may have them back on again before the holiday season is out to talk a little bit more of some of these travel tips. They talked about being able to pack your own food, pack snacks. It's going to help you save money instead of always stopping at McDonald's or Chick-fil-A or some rest stop place. Now, obviously, if you're in the middle of the road and you see a place, that can get old overnight, and sometimes you guys have to stop. But one of the things that they used to do is they would go find a grocery store and get a rotisserie chicken, $5 rotisserie chicken. Maybe you could do something like that. So it's not necessarily snacks, but it's something that is substantive that you can eat. They have a jet boil, I believe, if I can remember correctly, and they were able to cook food fast. That's something that you could definitely be able to do on all of that. I really think that that's going to be so very important. If you are trying to cut back on costs with accommodations, find a place maybe that you can stay with family members or friends. I think that's obviously going to be the best way. Right now, it's a little tough because we're talking about COVID, and there's still a pandemic, and they're talking about this Omicron variant that is now out. There was a Delta variant, an Alpha variant, and now this thing is mutated again, and it's an Omicron variant, and that may not be your comfort level. If you're comfortable and you know that there are people that you're with, that you're comfortable with, that maybe are vaccinated, they've received their booster shot or whatever, then that's great. If you're not comfortable with that, then once again, we're talking about finding perks and places, using points and miles for different things like hotel stays. If you stay a lot with Marriott, as I do, I'm a Marriott Rewards member, and you know that you're going to be able to need to stay someplace because just our comfort level just right now is just not staying in close quarters with a lot of different people. Even if they are vaccinated, we want to be able to stay in a hotel. So a lot of times we'll cut down on the cost of our hotel by using the points that we have. Maybe I have 50,000 Marriott points, but I need to stay a full week. So, okay, if I stay in a place that, say, is a category 2, that is 15,000 points a night, then if I have 50,000, then I have the ability to stay for 3 nights. Now, Marriott, the great thing for us is that Marriott has the ability that if you reserve 4 nights with points, you get a 5th night free. So that's a perk that they offer. If you are part of those reward plans, know the perks that are part of your plan, because something like that can be the difference between you coming out of pocket a lot of money and being able to maybe get either a free stay cash out of pocket or a greatly reduced stay. So a lot of times what we may do is, if I need to get the extra miles or the extra points in order to get that 4th night, if I'm staying 6 nights to get that 4th night and I want that 5th night free, I got to have that. I need 60,000 points, but I've got 50,000. So what I may do is Amex membership rewards and Chase Ultimate rewards, because I have those travel credit cards and that are tied to those rewards platforms. They will allow you to transfer miles to those different travel partners. That is also another perk that you can be able to use. And if I have 10,000 Amex membership rewards points, I can move that over to Marriott to be able to give me the other 10,000 that I need to get to the threshold of the 4 nights. So then that way I can use the perk that Marriott gives me of the extra 5th night. So now all I've got to come out of pocket for a 6-night stay is a 1 night worth of cash, 4 nights worth of points, and 1 night on Marriott. I look like I'm the hero. I'm happy. I'm happy as get up. You know what I mean? And so that's important. That's one of the ways you can do that. Just like I said, I was going to come back to the travel and the airlines. It's going to be so important to know your airline perks, to know if you have a travel rewards card perk, know your perks, like the Delta Sky Miles perk that I have. Southwest Rapid Rewards may have some other perks. They have a companion pass. And a lot of people are very familiar with that. If you have a Southwest Rapid Rewards card, and if you have a companion pass, you're basically able to bring somebody along on your companion, on your flight, essentially for free. All you have to pay, I think, is that TSA fee. And that's it. And that is a great perk to be able to have. So know the perks that you have available to you. If you have a cashback or a discount with AAA, be able to use that. Those things are going to be able to cut your costs incredibly, immensely. I cannot speak on that enough. That's something that you want to do. Now, having said all of that, one of the things I do want to stress, again, like I stressed in episode 1, is I said do not use a credit card, okay, for your spending, okay, and it's doable. Now, you're like, well, Ryan, you told me to use my credit card perks and miles and all of that, and I said, okay, well, yes, that's true. If you have that available to be able to use, then utilize it. Make sure, if you're paying with a credit card, to pay that off completely each and every month. Never carry a balance, because the average credit card interest rate is just over 17%. that money, when we talk about compounding interest, when we get into those other episodes, we talk about growing wealth, and you want to have your money compound and getting higher rates of return on your money, you're getting the rates of return on the credit card. So that's working against you, that 17%. You want that money to work for you. And so you never want to roll over and carry over a balance. But what's so important is when you're talking about new spending, if you can, try to stick to cash instead of a credit card. And that goes for holiday shopping, travel, it can be done. Or if you have to use a credit card and you have make sure you have the cash. I think it's important to note, if you need to swipe for a $500 round trip ticket, swipe for it to get the rewards from it, and then immediately pay the $500 from your bank account. That's going to be one of the ways to go. And so I'm just so excited to talk about these things. We just want you to be able to live your best life, be able to save some money, and have the things that you want as well. And so that is segment 2 of Holiday Spending Part 2. We're going to come back and wrap everything up after the other side of this commercial break. This is Green Talk for Brown Folks. I'm your host, Ryan Marshall. We'll be right back.
You are listening to Green Talk for Brown Folks with Ryan Marshall on HSRN.
Welcome back to Green Talk for Brown Folks. I'm your host, Ryan Marshall. I just want to be able to wrap everything up and put a nice little pretty bow on it. I would normally say I just want to button it up, but I think I want to change that for the holiday season and say, I want to put a little bow on this holiday spending conversation, and just do your research. That's going to be the best way to go. Make sure that the key to life is having options. There are a lot of different options. There are a lot of different places, a lot of different ways that you can save money, spend money, get the things that you need. And so not only with getting the gifts that you need, but holiday travel is so very important. I'm really, really excited about that. I think we're going to try to have Jen and Mark, travel bloggers, come back on. They were so very good a couple of months ago talking about their travel experiences and how they save money traveling all across the country in their Subaru Outback. That ain't me, but so that might not be a lot of you. But I think what some of the lessons that you can learn is the ways that they were able to kill costs while traveling. I think it's going to be great. And so I think we're going to have a holiday edition of that. Stand by on that as well. And then as we approach the end of the year, we're going to resume our entrepreneurship series, our entrepreneur series. And I'm really excited about that as well. And so we're going to talk to various business owners, various entrepreneurs, how they did it, what are some of the challenges and the pitfalls, what are some of the successes and the tips that they can give you, to making this and being successful. Real estate developers, philanthropists, entrepreneurs. We're going to talk to them. We're going to talk to all of them, and that's going to eventually get to our roundtable discussion. I'm very excited about that. So from here in Detroit, this is Ryan Marshall for Green Talk for Brown Folks, GTBF. Thanks for joining me once again this week. Happy holidays, and we'll talk to you next week.
Thanks for listening to Green Talk for Brown Folks with Ryan Marshall on HSRN. Follow Ryan's social media on Twitter at Ryan H. Marshall and on Instagram, RHM WealthWave. You can also connect with him via email at ryan.marshall@howmoneyworks.com. That's ryan.marshall@howmoneyworks.com. Join him next Friday at 1 p.m. for another edition of Green Talk for Brown Folks.